Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, where Soul Awkward Outcasts, curious weirdos, and all of our nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton M. Mortimer.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I am currently caught between two extremes. Extreme one, the positive extreme. I've been on a research bender for about a day and a half. Extreme two, the negative extreme. As a result of said research bender, I have not slept today. But I need to be up early tomorrow, so it actually works out in the end, and I can go to bed as soon as we finish this and then wake up at a human hour instead of, the afternoon. So, swings and roundabouts.
And I'm your host, last time on Wannabe, the brains for pop culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
Like I said, I'm in a very weird, thriving off of research-based adrenaline space. By the conclusion of this podcast, though, I would be very surprised if I am not where you usually are at the end of the show, i.e., barely conscious. But we'll see.
Alright. Just letting the first thing load currently. I've been fairly busy with stuff. Not going to go into it because, well, it's rather private. But, yeah. Work has been relatively fine, actually, for the most part. It's just kind of slowed a bit. Oh, and we put the AC in today, so that's going to be good.
Good for you guys.
Yeah.
We have yet to find a air conditioner that's both cheap enough and reliable enough to justify itself. And as you might imagine, I of the sides with Queen Mab variety, I'm not built for summer. I will not speak ill of its queen because diplomacy and forthrightness and intercourtly politics and shite. But I feel like Bram Stoker's description for Dracula. Yes, he can exist in the summer, but it is not his natural time. And yes, it is extra ironic considering that I was born at literally the dead center heart of summer that people often term Christmas in July. So there's that.
July 25th.
Correct.
Sometimes I worry I forget shit. I forgot my uncle's birthday for years until relatively recently.
Eek.
To be fair, okay, the thing is, like, he's the only one in our family that doesn't have the birthday in the same month as mine. And usually he goes off and does his own thing to celebrate his birthday.
My parents' birthdays are very easy to remember because my father is a firecracker. He was born on the 4th of July. And my mother, it was born on April 16th, which is fairly easy to remember because every like 6th or 7th Easter falls on her birthday. And several of those times she got sick on her birthday, and I felt really, really terrible for her. Because it's no fun being sick on your birthday, much less if your birthday coincides with a holiday. I got lucky in the birthday distribution system in the basis of my birthday is as far away from money-centric holidays as it possibly can be, so there will never be any confusion between birthday presents and Christmas presents or anything like that. They're about as far apart as they can be, which gives people plenty of time to regain resources in the event that they want to get me shit. Which is nice. This will be the first birthday I celebrate not like at home. Well, I'm in the sense that I'm, new home, but I mean in the sense of I can't remember the last birthday I had that didn't revolve around my family just by virtue of, still
College.
living at home. This will be interesting.
College.
No, because my birthday is in the summer, and
Oh.
usually I went in the normal school year semesters and took summers off.
Wait. Did I get fucked over? Oh no, that was
Birthday wise, possibly, considering how
no,
close it is to.
no. No, that was summer school. Sorry, I was thinking.
Your brain wasn't differentiating between summer school and school for a minute there.
They were fairly similar. Well, no,
Yeah.
actually, not in the curriculum because I just did stuff on the computer
Mm-hmm.
for a whole month. But it was similar in the fact that I wanted to get the fuck out of there.
As did we all eventually. I was one of those weird kids who actually liked school, and yet I still wanted to be out of there after a certain point. Although I frequently didn't like, even prior to my wintry commitments, I did not like summer because for me, summer was long and hot and boring. And I have yet to be disabused of that notion. The only halfway decent things about summer, in my opinion, even back then, were the 4th of July, which I always thought was cool, and my birthday.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
On to slightly more current events.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's from GameStop.com. God of War's Lao Fei's director talks fan skepticism, new ideas, and Frank the Cube. It's written by Timur Hussein, published on June 5th, 2026. Subheader Ariel Lawrence lays out Santa Monica Studios' vision for a new and different chapter in an ongoing God of War story. So, full honesty, God of War was kind of before my time. I guess the Grease trilogy or series, because I know there were like some spin-offs from that. Yeah, I didn't get into it. To be fair, I wasn't like, okay. Be fair, I was a Call of Duty guy growing up. I have done my best to branch out from that. But I mean, currently I should have played a little bit actually today, but I got the new Lego Batman game and 007 First Light.
Is First Light as good as we thought it would be in the trailers?
I'm still in the early phases, but it's been pretty good. It's been fun, actually.
Yeah, if only the movies had some idea of how to.
I have seen people like saying that Patrick Gibson, the guy who's playing James Bond in the game, really should be the new Bond, just for the movies.
I would still like to see Henry take it, because Henry has been dealt a bad hand through no fault of his own so many times. The man deserves a win.
Okay. The showstopper at PlayStation's State of Play was a new entry in the God of War franchise. However, instead of introducing Kratos' new adventure, Santa Monica Studio revealed God of War Lao Fei, which as indicated by the title, shifts its focus to Faye, a hero and warrior in her own right, to tell a tale that runs parallel to the events of 2018 God of War reboot. Well, it's not really a reboot; it's more of a it's a soft reboot, I guess.
Yeah,
Right?
I was about to say I think it might qualify as a soft reboot in the same way that
Or
Thor Ragnarok was a soft reboot of the Thor franchise.
Yeah, because I feel like it does continue like a lot of stories and ideas of the character of Kratos and his journey and story. And for the record, I have no problem with this. I'll be fully honest. I don't see a problem with it. Because from what I get, I mean, I've looked into God of War, obviously, because the lore and stuff and mythology and all that.
I would have liked to have seen them use a different title and just made it a spin-off that takes place in the same like
world
multiverse, yeah, as God of War.
Yeah, that's fair. I just
because all like the God of War, whether it be as a protagonist, i.e., when Kratos was doing it, or as an antagonist when he was fighting Ares, is so central to Kratos's particular thing.
Yeah, I can understand that. But it didn't look like a bad game when I watched the reveal of it. Actually, it looked pretty good. Like it's very in par with like the previous games that came out. So
most of my exposure to God of War is in the cinematic compilations.
Yeah,
and the cutscenes. So I can't speak to the gameplay.
Well, I was talking about like. Well, no, I guess I was talking about mechanics, but it didn't look bad, you know. It's, but story-wise, it seems interesting, actually.
I would very much like it to be good. I am skeptical.
When aren't you?
Fair. It is one of my default modes.
One of?
I have other default modes. For example,
Bitchy?
well, yes.
Sarcastic.
Well, yes. Also that.
Smart.
I was going to I was going to say something like flamboyant or sassy, or as you so iconically put it, that bitch.
No, I said bitchy.
Yeah, but I will always remember that one time that we have recorded for posterity, because that's how the internet works. That you called me, quote, that bitch, in
I stand by it.
a semi-insulting way, and I have never seen that as anything other than a compliment. I embrace that I am that bitch, and I got typecast when I did drama in high school as the pompous method acting Fraser Crane-esque actor, because it was a play within a play type. It was a play within a play type story, and for all of the fact that Miss Kaufman drove us all insane because she had pre-Showtime jitters and shit, she probably wasn't wrong to cast me as precisely that role. It's been God damn it, it's been like 50, no, it's been like 13 years since high school for me, and I have yet to be she has yet to be proven wrong in her surmise there.
Oh my god, it's been 8 years since high school for me.
Yup, it's ask not for whom the bell tolls, eventually it tolls for us all.
Ah, shit. I mean, I was probably gonna go. I have 10-year high school reunion thing. I don't know if that actually is a thing anymore, honestly.
I never heard about any such thing, but that doesn't mean it didn't exist because
I mean, there's a school alumni when I was that was mentioned several times.
like I've never heard anyone say anything about it, but I'm also one of those people that didn't really have the largest group of friends, and most of the friends I did have are the sorts of people who don't go to shit like that.
Well, I want to go one because I've always tried to be more sociable.
Yeah.
Two, it would be nice to see people that I went to school with, see how they're doing, mainly to make myself feel either better or worse regarding how my life's turned out.
I would like to see everyone again. I think I have improved since those days. And of
And
course, there were a lot of guys I had crushes on that I would like to see how they shaped up. Although there's less mystique to that now because Facebook exists. I will say many of the people that I found very, very attractive indeed have not aged well. The gold standard guy, the first guy I ever like truly fell head over heels for, he is aging mostly just fine. But then again, he's also in the fucking military and was in the military on a full wrestling scholarship. So if anyone keeps the lifestyle that's
you
gonna
guys had
make it
wrestling?
this, hmm?
You guys had wrestling?
Oh yeah, it like in the South, football is the thing. I think I can say with minimal provocation that wrestling is a bigger deal in the northern part of the East Coast.
I don't think we ever did. I know, fuck, I knew we had a tennis team. Never heard anything about wrestling.
We had a tennis team too, to the best of my recollection, but it wound up in the same kind of barely qualifies as a sport territory as like cross country. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's not a sport. I'm saying in terms of its reputation. It's one of those sports that has a reputation for being a sport only by technicality, basically. But yeah, the guy that I still consider to be my gold standard for what I find attractive in guys, he wound up going to West Point on a full wrestling scholarship. And yes, I am aware I have stupidly high standards. What else is new?
There's also a third reason, but I'm not going to say that on stream.
Out with it. We're already this far down the rabbit hole.
Well, the third reason why I want to go to a high school reunion is see if I can hook up with any of the girls that I knew back then. Shallow,
Well.
I know, but
No, it's a pretty universal. Like I just got done talking about the one that I still have one-itis for. It he's married now and he has a kid, so that's that pretty soundly that skewers most of my
be fair, that one,
even
that,
wildest
be fair,
fantasies. But
that one is just honestly, I don't really think I don't put much stock in that, to be honest. It's funny to think about, though.
yeah, it's always fun to think about the guy that I liked that may have secretly had feelings for me, or maybe he figured out he had feelings for me after high school, and yada yada yada, freaking yada. I don't know.
That, and I just would want an excuse to have sex in a high school, well, my old high school.
It's the romantic equivalent of the revenge power fantasy. It's the romantic equivalent
Oh
of
no,
the.
actually, it's just because I want to do it because I remember hearing stories of other kids doing it there too when I was in high school.
For me, it's kind of the same feeling as when you say you hope you fuck on your worst enemy's grave or some shit like that. It's a little bit like a this
You got
place is
problems.
now beneath me thing for me.
You got problems, Dalton.
I know. These. It, it's definitely known. I don't think either you or Dragon Turtle didn't know that by now.
All right.
I am an occasionally dark little creature.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
All right. Somewhat unexpectedly, there has been everything from excitement to anger at the new direction. But to Santa Monica Studio, Laufey has long represented an exciting way to branch out and to tell new and different stories that enrich the God of War we know. We spoke to the game's director, Ariel Lawrence, about the announcement of the game, the response, and what the studio hopes to achieve with its latest game. Okay, so it's like a Q&A section here then.
I have one suggestion, and I feel there's a very deja vu aspect to this question.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't your first move passing the torch to Kratos' son? Especially considering the last like 2.5 games have been very focused indeed on the father-son dynamic. It's a little bit like when Riri Williams showed up in the MCU, despite the fact that Morgan Stark exists and really should have been Ironheart.
Or some Iron Woman variant.
Yeah, like it's for me, it always made more sense to have her take the name Ironheart because Heart is very like emotion driven and like you could play up the father daughter connections and things.
Okay, I mean, like, I don't really like taking the name of a character who has that name already, but another parallel is with Tony, with his arc reactor originally before they took it out. It was near his heart.
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
Something like that. And you could have done maybe, well, I don't know, Iron Man, because I think that's like a Russian superhero in the Winter Guard. Yeah. Anyway. Also, I mean, Faye even though like it's not as prominent, was a very integral character for the story of Kratos during the Norse duology.
Yeah, like I'm not opposed to her getting a spin-off. Like I said, I'm all for spin-offs that take place in the same universe.
Right.
But that's not really like it feels like that's what they want to do, but they also don't. They also want the brownie points of we claimed the God of War IP in the name of woman to hear us roar. Derp logic.
I don't know. That response I always feel is somewhat knee jerkish. I don't deny that it could be a possibility, but
yeah, I'm not saying that is necessarily a factor. I'm just saying we have run into enough egotistical, narcissistic, ideologically captured writers and producers and holders of IP that it wouldn't in a world where She-Hulk and Velma exist, it wouldn't surprise me if this is basically the Sweet Baby Inc. of it all.
I thought that was disbanded.
Kind of yes, kind of no. They've relabeled and restructured, but it's still the same people doing mostly the same shtick.
All right. Moving on.
Yep.
GameSpot, God of War Lineage has changed so many times, and Laufey is probably the most drastic. What is God of War to you in Santa Monica Studio? I mean, not really. It's always been a well, the first the original God of War games were very much styled, I would think, after like a Greek tragedy.
Yeah, I don't think there's many that would disagree with you there.
But Kratos himself, who has always been I disagree with the original creator when he said like was talking about like Kratos' development in the new games and how he didn't like it. I disagree with that because Kratos has always been a deep character. He's always been someone who's built from tragedy and affected deeply by it.
I mean, I would have to ask him what he would rather have happened. Is the thing.
I think there was like a whole interview about it. I can't remember where, but I remember a lot of people disagreeing with him on the take that Kratos shouldn't be as what's the word? Sorry, I had to talk off screen real quick. Um, what the word? What is the word I'm thinking about? More three dimensional, I guess. Even though I would argue that he's always been three dimensional, it's just buried under being.
Yeah, he used to be more of a bastard in his travels. He has become less of a bastard. It really, like, I don't necessarily agree with this because I feel like this is often used to justify writers making shitty decisions, but there is a tiny like speck, a sliver of truth to the idea that if you keep the camera running for long enough, eventually you'll get to a point where your character has to be something else or
Well, I mean, there's
becomes.
also. Sorry,
Go ahead.
I was gonna add, like, I mean, no one well, a genuine human being,
Mm,
if we're using that as the basis, right,
mm,
does not remain static. People are constantly changing, constantly evolving, constantly learning. Usually, I mean, like, there are exceptions to people who just refuse to learn, refuse to grow, and all that. But the general consensus, obviously, and
mm.
so to say a character can't do that, and say that that is a static character, or uh, that they're not supposed to grow. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of characters that. Well, we can go into that, but we're not going to.
And subversiveness is, subversiveness, and we've beaten the war drum against subversiveness for a very, very long
Uh,
time.
I mean, you're not wrong. We have talked about that, and I don't mind subversion when it is handled correctly. And
Well, and that is the tiny little ember that makes at least the effort work. Which is one of the oldest one of the one of the oldest like questions in storytelling. For as long as we've had stories that have definitive endings or definitive happily ever afters, the first question that anyone begins to learn once they start actually thinking for themselves is what happens after happily ever after. Like you can lay all kinds of shit to the neo-Hegelian deconstructionalist post-Frankfurt School types. And I have and I will with every breath that I have in my lungs. But the reason why the door doesn't get shut in their faces is because there is a facet of human nature that always does wonder what what happens after the end, what happens after happily ever after. And I think to deny that aspect of ourselves would be a folly. Now, that doesn't absolve you from telling stories that make sense for your characters or make sense for your world or prioritize the quality of the storytelling over my themes or avoiding Frankfurt School style deconstruction, but buried under the Mount Everest mountain range of bullshit that is post Frankfurt School neo Hegelian deconstructionalism, there is that fundamentally human impulse of, okay, but what happens next?
yeah,
Moving on.
yeah. Alright, so the answer to the question that was asked earlier, right? Ariel Lawrence responds, having worked on the franchise for a long time and been through a lot of those evolutions, I think it's telling an epic story that has tons of fantasy and violence. At the heart of it, still is a really human, personal story. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay.
I have nothing to comment on about that. That's just that
Uh,
that's so obvious that it's almost banal. But yeah.
To be fair, I feel like some people don't recognize that.
Yeah, and that is the problem. No matter how obvious and banal something is said, there's always going to be someone out there who genuinely does need to hear it, or that might be hearing it for the first time. It's one of the reasons we should be holding children's entertainment to a higher standard rather than a lower one, because the experiences you have, the media you're exposed to, the stories you tell or are told early on in life will have a profound effect on the way you think about such things and the way you look at things. And no, I'm not saying that art makes people do things and that's why we need to censor art. No, but because children's media is more often than most other forms of media going to more than likely be a large number of people's first, I would rather hold children's media to the standards of Leica Studios or of Prime Pixar than the bargain basement asylum style ripoffs of the Disney sequels, for example.
Moving on.
Yep.
A lot of people think Kratos one way or as rage filled, but there was a real person underneath that. And for us, seeing that evolution over time with the different consoles and thinking about what new things can we bring to that storytelling, what new things we can bring to that combat experience, and being able to show a mythological world that people maybe haven't seen and deliver on that surprise and delight kind of feel.
May I make a suggestion that if you want new inspirations for God of War, I know this is kind of a cheap shot because they are basically the monsters to your Addams family, but the Hades video games. Think about what you could do with God of War meets Hades 2. There's so much fertile ground for storytelling there.
You know, I have the first Hades game like on disc. I've never played it though.
I have not played either of the Hades.
So I've heard the
Hades
story is
games.
amazing though.
I have seen a lot of the cutscenes, and yes, it is like this is just a me thing because I don't like the stabby, punchy, shooty sort of games. I find the Hades video games more interesting than the God of War games. Don't get me wrong. I've still watched all of the cinematic compilations of the God of War games because they're cool. But if you put a gun to my head and told me I could only keep one Greek mythology centric video game between the Hades franchise and the God of War franchise, I kind of got to go with the Hades franchise. But that is, as ever, a personal reflection of my particular standards and my particular nature. I'm not saying it's a universal thing. I will say I think the Hades movies are more consistently good. Now that's cheating a little bit because of course God of War's been out a lot longer and has undergone more shifts than most. But again, if you made me choose between we can get rid of all the God of War or we can get rid of the Hades video games, I'm gonna have to keep the Hades video games even if there's fewer of them. Moving on though.
All right. There's been a feeling that Laufey has taken the franchise away from what it used to be, which is, for many is that violence and a bit of machismo too. How do you feel about that assessment, and what would you say to potentially assuage those fears? Okay, I'm going to read the answer first before we discuss that because I feel like to be fair, we've both kind of talked about, we've given our opinions on that specific answer as well.
Yeah.
Already. So, I mean, I know a little bit more than what we've shown for the reveal. So for me, Faye definitely has violence in it and is capable of that. I think it's just more what does a warrior look like in Faye? And it's a little different than what a warrior looks like in Kratos. They're different size and shaped people, but I think they're still both as strong and capable. For me, the level of violence for Faye is really like what is going to get the job done. And so when she's going to take somebody out, it's what is the way to get that done as quickly, as cleanly as possible. There's still some violence, more violence to come. General Kratos was a Spartan general. He's still a tactician and things like that. I think where he has more of the ability to be a brick wall, Faye is going to take on monsters and gods that are of different sizes and shapes. So she's going to use her physicality differently. And so I think that's really just playing to the strengths of both of those. Faye wants to help Kratos and Atreus as quickly as she can, so to get through the world and those encounters to what she needs. She's going to try to go the best way possible. Faye, she's a little quicker on her feet. Seems fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna again be very stereotypically me for a second and offer up the suggestion that it would have been interesting to see a protagonist in a God of War universe video game that relied more heavily on magic and less on warfare and brute strength. Again, I realize I am biased because my version of needs more cowbell is always needs more magic, but it's also partly because there are so many cool kick-ass female magic user type characters. Sypha from Castlevania, Gwen Tennyson, any goth coom witch sort of character. It would be nice to see that dynamic in God of War because Kratos is such a physically inclined character, even more than one could argue he should be, given that he was a god once upon a not very long ago. So having a female character sort of spec into magic and sorcery, and that being her primary means of attack and defense, I think would be interesting and would really fit well with a female character. Again, because I might be biased because there are so many good female like witches and sorceresses and shit. But being that as it may, I think having Laufey spec more into the magical side of things and less into the punchy, shooty, stabby type would be interesting. Moving on. Unless you had anything to add there, Brainstormer.
No.
Alrighty then. Moving on.
Faye is a giant. She was a protector of her people. She wielded the Leviathan axe before Kratos, and she essentially tamed the beast that Kratos was. Why do you think there's still skepticism about Faye's ability? Everybody comes at their stories with their own worldview, so I'm not sure what drives a lot of people to say that, but I definitely think Faye is as qualified as you said. We know that Faye and Kratos stood toe-to-toe and were partners in their life together, and they cared about each other. He saw her as a capable warrior, and she saw in him also that capability for change. I'm not sure what drives others to make assumptions on that, but I know her to be quite capable. Okay.
I think part of the problem is you've got this thing where it doesn't feel like they want Laufey to be her own character. They just want her to stand there in Kratos' shoes and do equally or greater than he does. And I think that's part of the problem. Even if you don't want it to be a spin-off, if you're gonna hand the God of War franchise to other characters, you need to highlight what makes them different as much as you do what makes them the same. Like a God of War franchise that specs into Atreus in the same way that DBZ had the potential to spec into Gohan, but Toriyama liked Goku better, therefore. But yeah, a story starring a different character with a different backstory and a different set of skills is going to, by necessity, be different from a mainline story there. And I think by letting these characters be more unique, or rather, by letting them be unique relative to Kratos, it feels a lot less like you're asking somebody to take Laufey standing in for Kratos. It feels a lot less like that if you let her be her own character and let her style, her fight choreography, her personality inform the character instead of having her kind of be a stand-in. Moving on.
Again, the thing is, I'm just not as again, none against God of War fans. I'm just not as invested in this as I probably should be or can be. So, mainly because
Like
I'm an
you say,
Xbox.
it was before your time, and the earlier ones were before my time even. Although granted, I am and will probably always be a retro gamer. My gaming involvement peaked with the Wii. I absolutely loved the Wii. The
I
the, the
had a
Wii
Wii.
Mario game was freaking amazing,
I
and
played that. Actually. I did play that. That was fun.
I wound up getting pro on my Wii bowling avatar because I essentially figured out my own special technique to bowl strikes every time, pretty much.
I played Just Dance sometimes.
I never played any of the Just Dance games or the Guitar Heroes or anything like that. Not because I wouldn't want to, because I actually think I would have a lot of fun with those. I just never got the opportunity, really.
I think I did get a guitar. Actually, I got a whole Guitar Hero like gaming set, like with the drums and everything. Never played it. Just never had the
That's a
space
shame.
to.
I really wish I really wish games companies still sold old consoles because I really miss the Wii actually.
All right. Anyway, moving on.
Yep.
Grief and revenge and cycles of violence have been a key part of Kratos' story thematically. This game feels like it could be different. What is the thematic journey that you want to take Faye on? Sorry, great. Sorry. I think both Faye and Kratos have had things happen in their past that they wish maybe could have gone differently. Faye was the protector of the Giants, but that didn't quite work out as well for the Giants. And so I think a part of Faye's journey is processing all those things along the way. And how can she help Kratos and Atreus? And what's the next step of her becoming? How do you come to terms with that?
Well, here's another interesting question that I don't think has actually been answered yet. Are Kratos and Atreus I just realized how closely those rhyme. Going actually to be in this game as
Well,
main supporting characters, or
no, so it's well, one thing, she's in an afterlife. She's dead. That's how they open the game.
true.
Because it's taking place. I think it's supposed to take place in conjunction or simultaneously with God of War 2018.
Mm.
So so I don't know. I don't think they're going to like really show up as much since they're doing their own journey as well, trying to spread her ashes. So, to be fair, I think a lot of people were interested in seeing Faye more after like her kind of actually seeing her in God of War Ragnarok because she had such an interesting rapport with Kratos. So again, I can understand why this game was made.
Yeah.
Granted, I kind of wish it was somewhat of a prequel, and we see her actually like you can actually do a boss fight with her and Thor because apparently they had a scrap together.
See, that would be so interesting.
Plus, it is somewhat of a tragedy because it's like because you do
Yeah,
know.
the audience has foreknowledge of this is her final go round.
Yeah. Um, we saw a lot of that with Kratos. What is he coming into? What is holding him back from doing those things? And he had to process his raging grief, his relationship with his family, and who he was to who he is now. I think Faye as a warrior has a similar journey in front of her, maybe with slightly different beginnings, but still, I think that's a person we can keep telling stories about.
Mm.
I mean, to be fair, yes, I do think by the end of God of War, Ragnarok, Valhalla, like that story
Mm-hmm.
expansion they did, was a good ending for Kratos and like him finally coming to terms and being like kind of taking over the All Father position
Mm-hmm.
that Odin was supposed to be, or like Odin traditionally kind of is.
Yeah.
So uh, I'm fine with his story ending because it ends off pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do agree with you. Atreus kind of seemed like the more logical step for a spinoff, or like a
And
continuation
yeah, and
forward.
I'm not even opposed to giving different characters spin-offs, because spin-offs are cool and they can work. But you're not selling them as though they're spin-offs, you're selling them as though they are the main games, and they're not. And I think that optics fail is, if nothing else, going to nerf the game's potential for success. But moving on.
All right. Kratos has been the embodiment of rage that has been for a lot of his life. I think a lot of people feel that in themselves through him. So that is a big reason why people have such a visceral reaction to not being there. There's potential to not be able to channel those emotions through a character that has been there for them to do that. But there are perhaps opportunities to channel other emotions through Faye. What is the emotion you think that Faye represents the most that could be a point of relation for people who come to this franchise for the ability to express themselves? Um, Before I read the answer, I kind of guessed, given one of the just one of the briefest lines she has in the earlier segment of the showcase, she never got to say goodbye to them.
Yeah, and if they work that into the story, I will be very impressed.
Yeah. Um, I guess the core emotion there would be regret in a way. To be fair, Faye is a character, from what we know of her, is a character that would have a lot of regret.
Yeah. Which I think is also fair of Kratos.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just.
That's one of his driving motives, is how on literal God's earth am I supposed to wipe this much red out of my ledger, to borrow a Black Widow
Yeah, that was.
speech.
Well, I do think it was a. Sorry. Well, I do think it was an aspect in the Norse duology. I do think it was not a central focus for Kratos in terms of the regret. Well, I think that could be the central focus for Faye here, mostly. All right, so the answer, I think, for Faye, it's really about understanding what is holding us back from becoming the best, most powerful versions of ourselves, and coming to terms with what it is that's been holding you back. But also, I don't think people should be afraid that Kratos isn't going to be there for them. We've got the remakes coming. There's plenty more stories to tell for Kratos, and I hope that everybody allows him to also continue the growth that he's had for the couple of games. He'll always have a certain part of that in him that he's dealing with, but we all grow and tell stories as well. Tell new stories as well.
I'd be very interested to see what that's what that's going to look like. I don't think many people do go to Kratos because they see themselves in him. They go to Kratos simply put because he's a badass and they like his badassery. And I would imagine also in a society that's very like Abrahamic faith oriented, there probably is some catharsis if you're a monotheist or even a henotheist and somebody goes around killing all the polytheist gods. As I recall, one of the early concepts for a continuation of God of War was that there would be um some Norse and Celtic equivalent of Kratos going around, or someone who does what Kratos does, doing it for um doing it
Well,
for the various different pantheons instead of it
I
just
remember one of
being
the
Kratos.
sorry, one of the things that come back to me regarding God of War, because I remember seeing this clip
Mm,
that it's mentioned that he and two other gods, I can't remember. I think one of them was Egyptian. They were all three of like him and two other war gods.
mm,
I think the other one might have been Tyr. I'm not sure.
mm.
They travel across vast deserts to following a star.
Mm.
Shining bright in the night sky that leads them to a. The implication there was that they were the three wise kings.
Yeah, the implication there is supposed to be on a kind of meta thematic level, the end of the polytheist pagan mythos and the birth of the new god. Arthurian legend does this a lot too. The idea that the distinction between the native Celtic or pseudo Celtic beliefs with the advent of the new god, one of my favorite lines from Camelot, or no, it's Excalibur. One of my favorite lines from Excalibur is Merlin and Morgan Le Fay are talking, and Merlin says something along the lines of, "The one god has displaced the many gods."
Mm.
And I think also if we saw more people on the ground opposing Kratos, like actual humans opposing Kratos, because I don't think, I mean, obviously part of the appeal is you have to make the pagan gods very, very bastards so we can enjoy watching Kratos kill them. But I'd be interested to see an actual earnest worshiper of the various gods he's killed come to him and say, what have you done? You've extinguished the light of my god and shit. I think that would be, assuming again that we didn't have to pander to the Abrahamic market, but I think it'd be very interesting to see Kratos having to cope with the idea of Odin, for example. Yes. Is he a trickster? Yes. Is he a shapeshifter? Yes. But is he that much of a bastard that you would want to kill him? No, not really. Odin does what Odin wants to do, and that's just as often poke things to see if the dominoes fall as it is create something new and glorious to inspire people in the future and shit type things. Moving on.
Do you feel also hello, Giant Troll? Good to see you. I'm doing good. He also asked he's an hour behind, so he's asking what's the research for.
It is for the Society of Creative Anachronism. They are having a event on Sunday called the Day of Champions, and on Day of Champions, basically every discipline gets to submit something, and one of the sort of overarching branches of the disciplines is called arts and sciences. And I created a modern spin or pseudo modern spin on pharmacos cakes, which are offering cakes that usually took the form of animals in like a symbolic or sympathetic link sort of way for people that either couldn't afford animals because animals were very very expensive luxuries back in the day, or that couldn't, for example, kill their only cow because then they'd, have neither meat nor dairy and survival's a son of a bitch kind of thing. It's I'm very tired, or else I would go on more of a ramble, and I will go on more of a ramble tomorrow after I have rested. But yeah, it's a research thing for the SCA. I very much doubt that I, as a first time entrant, will win, but I put at least a lot of work and a lot of fixing problems that I didn't realize were going to show up into this. So I'm going to try to make a go of it anyway. Moving on.
Moving on.
Yep.
All right. For being evolution and game-changing moment in the God of War franchise. I mean, really, I mean, that was God of War in 2018. But do you think about how your success could pave the way for what happens to the franchise going forward? On the inside, it makes these games every time somebody has, even from the very first God of War, at a time when a lot of the great action games were coming out of Japan. It was like American studios, internally, externally, etc., said, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea," and that becomes a personal challenge for the team to be able to push forward and experiment. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair mindset, actually.
Yeah, just make sure you don't lose the essence of the thing that made you famous in the, because that's the problem. Even aside from the ideology, which is all pervasive and institutional and bullshit, but a lot of people with more creative outlets often lose the core of the thing that made them famous, or the thing that put their name as a household name. They're more prone to reinventing to the point of fallaciousness. And sometimes you've got to ask yourself, how much change can I get away with in the franchise as it exists before it's just no longer the thing I created in the first place, before it's, something completely different. Moving on. Brainstormer, if you're
Man, you can't
talking,
do
we
it.
cannot hear you.
Hello.
Okay, now you are coming through fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Am I on a delay, or
when
are
they were
you?
like, I can't go to single camera, you can't have the sun come in. All right, tell me if you hear this right now. Schmoobly dong.
Lol.
You're on it.
Okay. DT, please verify for us when you get to this point in the video. Obviously, you are speedrunning through the rest to catch up, but hopefully we can resolve this somehow. But moving on, because we're still on our first thing of the night.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What did I just say?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, that was instant response. Okay.
Okay. So
Jesus.
if there was a problem, it resolved itself. Good, good, good.
Either that or you were just responding very slowly.
That is also possible because my brain is running out of adrenaline and now it's like I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, for the record, just because of this, we should probably skip the other God of War article and just try it.
Yeah, for now
This
we
one,
will save it to
I'm not
next
gonna
week.
lie. This is a kind of a long article.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a full-on Q&A article, or else I would have I would have suggested it for a different night when we had less going on.
Also, most of the time, we're just thinking about how we tell the best story, make the best, most fun experience for players. When we have these moments where we announce something, I guess maybe it gives us the chance to give a little bit more reflection on that. But a lot of times, we're just heads down on how do we make the best experience we can? How do we need? What do we need to do to tell the story better? And each one of those solutions really
You're roboting a bit.
through okay now, or
Okay. That sounded better. It's just for a while there we were getting like one syllable for per word. God damn it. My brain really is shutting down. We may have to save all of these because I don't know if I can make it another hour. And we lost Brainstormer. I am curious if it was an involuntary yeeting from the call or if it was him trying to reboot his system. And of course there's the good old standby of why not a bit of both. Waiting and waiting and waiting. This may be the internet's way of telling me to go the fuck to bed while you're still semi-coherent, you bastard.
okay, I'm back. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing? Everything
Internet.
re-lined up?
As far as I can tell, fingers
Okay.
crossed. I guess.
Good, good.
Okay. Just give me a second to get like the article loaded and. Every fucking week with this
Yeah.
shit. Okay. Where did I lose you?
Something about different versions of news stories or something along those lines.
You weren't paying attention, were you?
I may have had a Freddy Krueger style micro nap there for a second. I'm not sure
I do
I can
those
make
at
it
work.
through.
I'm not judging you. I do those at work when I'm actually working. So
I I don't know if I can maintain meaningful commentary for another hour. We may have to call it here and save.
Okay, you know what? Okay, we are gonna, as much as I hate doing that, but for Dawn's sake, let's just do the trailers.
Yeah,
Those will be,
they're
those,
easy
those,
to do, hopefully.
yeah. Give me 1 sec.
Mm.
It's always something.
Yeah, it's either you or it's me. And also, to be fair, it's only partly the sleep issue. It's also the heat issue. Heat makes me very, very tired.
Who doesn't get tired with heat?
I don't know. There must be some people. Some people get energized by the heat. I am definitely not one of those.
I've never met a fucking person that gets. I don't know who the fuck you've met.
Well, I mean, E often says he feels that way. Anglantine, so like potential.
Okay, well, Englantine's originally from Florida, so I believe that.
And I'm sure there are some like Chrono and Grim both live in Arizona.
Okay, yeah,
And
the people that are born in those kind of places where basically, if you crack an egg, just immediately. Well, no, if you just hold an egg.
the people like that are energized by the heat in the same way I imagine many people in like Minnesota wind up being finding ways to be energized by the cold.
All right. So Dawn sent this trailer. It's a Supergirl one. We're gonna watch it. Comment when we have something to comment about.
Yep.
All right.
Apple pie.
Does that work really for Supergirl, or
We
just do that for? We just do that for Super overall, or?
That's a good.
I mean,
that's a good question. Like the first thing that popped in my head just now, granted that I'm very, very tired, was Girl Mana, but
that's just okay. Let's just go with apple pie.
That sounds wrong.
You think? Anyway, yeah. Let's
Banana.
Here's the thing. My cousin and I have very different ideas about what it means to be a hero.
I mean, that's fair.
I mean, that is necessarily the difference between them. Doesn't really give us much more insight into her character, but
well, I think that was just like the starting of that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's the tagline.
To be fair, I'm gonna bring up CBS. Bring up CBS or CW.
You're going robotic again.
Yeah, because she's there. Fuck her.
Oh dear. And like clockwork, that usually means that you've got about 30 seconds before you get yeeted from the thing again.
Hello.
Okay, now you are fine again. Why is it that you can't? Why is it that it always glitches out right as you're like making a substantive point? Oh, fuck.
Where did I lose you?
It started to glitch out basically as soon as you started making your point.
Point.
I said something to the effect of, it is necessarily the case that Superman and Supergirl operate differently, but it does. But the line in the trailer doesn't really tell us anything more about her. And you said that it was essentially the tagline of the thing, and then you started the glitch, and now he's gone again. Yep, it's one of those nights, folks. I apologize. This was probably inevitable to some degree. I was hoping I could ride off the adrenaline a little bit more and make it through. I am slowly dying, however, and I'm worried about blinking because if I blink, I am worried I will micronap. So when he comes back in, we might just have to switch to outros. Because otherwise, between his tech issues and my coherency issues, we may die if we try to force the issue any more than we already have. La da dum da dee. But I am seeing that there are dragon turtle messages. Okay, he's back again.
Christ.
Yep, it's one of those nights. It's just one of those nights where we cannot catch a break. I think it might be smart to just call this one a wash and switch to outros.
Alright. Well, I guess with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avidazai, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Shalom and fuck off. I am
See.
very tired and need sleep, and Brainstormer's computer is dying.
alright, guys. See ya.
Cheers, guys.